These were the size and shapes of the continents. These were the land masses that were actually taken out through the sinkholes. And this was Lemuria over here. It was big. And all you've got left are the little Hawaiian Island pieces that are in through here. So this was showing the power of sinkholes, really, and what they can do. And it did create grid destability, but they did it in a way. They did it through what are called harness fields, where you can actually harness a part of the land and not rip the plates and not make the rods fully spin. Because if you get them spinning at a certain rate, that's when the cracking starts. So they didn't crack the plates when they progressively pulled these in. They just activated the spins of the rods to a certain degree, and literally, it would be like a light wave ran through a piece of land, right? And then it started to vibrate like this. If you were standing on that land before you blinked off and disappeared with it, you would see almost like EM heat waves in the air as stuff started to literally come apart. And then it would go pop and literally disappear from where it was and get drawn as energy, as light, as radiation, down through the sinkhole, and then remanifest on the other side, wherever it was directed. So they kind of work like wormholes, but they're different. Right? So that is how they removed those continental pieces out of our maps. Next one, please. And that's what they're hoping to do with the whole thing, actually. Now this is getting into what we began to introduce in St. Kitts, are the safe zone maps. And the safe zone maps have to do with something called the Shield of Solomon, which is it is a host shield that is plugged into the larger host, but it also runs the frequencies of not only our A10 event horizon, E4 event horizon that we are on, that our systems are on, but our adjugate twin system and the cosmic spirit body, in our universal cosmic spirit body, is the A10 system, a Dore 10 system. So that is the strongest frequency that you can actually bring down through the center into our event horizon. And the Kitts gate, which was the adjugate 13 gate, adjugate Shala 13. We have a Shala 13 gate over here in Corral, Peru. That is the core gate. Its adjugate twin gate is over here in St. Kitts, and that's why they sent us to St. Kitts, because that is the point where you could anchor the first flows and hold open the flows of the vector line from A10 all the way through. So we're not just being supported by frequencies from our own event horizon, but we're going right across the center of our cosmic spirit body, literally our universal cosmic spirit body, and bringing in the stronger frequencies from the A10 vector. So that's why St. Kitts became very important as the fueling point for something called the Shield of Solomon. And the Shield of Solomon is meant to be able to run enough frequencies through the A10 gates to be able to prevent the omega code, at least temporarily, to prevent the omega code from shattering the grids, where it can counter the rod spins and it can keep the grids together long enough for a proper evacuation to take place. And the whole plan has been there for a long time. This infiltration hasn't just happened since 2000. This has been going on and on for millions of years. So this plan has been in order for quite a long time as well, as far as bringing the Shield of Solomon activation into Earth. The Shield of Solomon starts with a triangulation of energies. And the first part of it, what do they call it? Expansion 1 of the Shield of Solomon, which is the one we did first. What we did in Kitts was Kitts, and it actually connects in. There's like another line that would go from here, I didn't put it on here yet, and over to here, that connects Kitts into the watchtower. It also connects Kitts into Shaylon 7, and then Shaylon 7 back to the watchtower. Then Shaylon 7 all the way down to Corral, and Corral back to Kitts. So it creates this triangle here, and it has that little thing there too that I don't have drawn in yet. Then there's the level 2 expansion of the power core of the Shield of Solomon, which goes from Kitts all the way over to Adair, Ireland, and then back through to Shaylon, and connects all this. Then there's another one that we'll see on the other map that expands the size of this triangle, connects through the Colorado Alon 7 grids, and allows it to connect into the harmonic points over here, which allows it to anchor the San Andreas Fault and to stabilize a bit of the caldera and stuff that's running through Yellowstone. So Alon, if we can get that secured, we're in the process. It looks promising that some very nice grid guardians are interested, and we'll see somewhere between January and June whether it is going to go to someone in the Awake Guardian Azurite family indefinitely or if it's just going to go, because we can't carry it. We can't carry the mortgage on it, because we have that house we're paying the mortgage on. We have the house that they just want us to buy over there we're carrying the mortgage on, and it's just too much. So we're going to see. So right now we don't have the California one activated yet, but they must feel positive about the grid handovers that are happening, because we literally, Shaylon was bought by somebody in the group that is very trusted by the beloveds to hold frequency there properly, because that is a key gate. But there, I believe one of the things, they gave us a long list of things that by the end of this workshop, what is going to occur, I do believe they're activating Elon. So it is going to activate the larger triangulation. They're also activating something else. Oh, yeah, and a dare. They're also doing a dare, the initiation of the activation. And then when we go over to Ireland in 2009, we're going to finish that activation and do something else. There's another shield that connects into, I think, more into Europe that's involved with that they haven't told me about yet, but first you have to initiate the activation of this thing. These are called sentinels. That's called a sentinel. The Kitsgate is referred to as a sentinel. Shaylon is considered a sentinel, and Elon is considered a sentinel. Then you have the watchtower, and we'll read a bit about the watchtower and what they actually do. The watchtower is the Carinatus point of median Earth. So on median Earth, the Carinatus point of the planet is there, and this is the watchtower is the median Earth Carinatus point anchoring shield down here. This is actually a shield that has a certain diameter that will, and I forget what it was, 144 miles, was it? Like across? Yeah, diameter across. That actually it connects directly in, and it is a slide city platform. It's one of those the portions of it that are made of chalet light can upstep, and the portions of it that connect to the elemental kingdom up in median Earth shift down, and they meet. The two sets of atoms meet, and the ones for the elementals from median Earth literally bond to the light units, or the mana that we're collecting in our body, our light quotient, the light quotient around the atoms, and literally pulls them up into elemental manifestation up there for slide. So they're literally slide platforms. There are other ones of these too. That is the power grid as far as that's. It's almost like air traffic control, right, of the planet. This is one of the primary gate that feeds it and links it into the host from A10, from the A10 vector, which gives it more power than it would have otherwise. Now, this whole configuration also has what are called, so you have one watchtower, 4 sentinels, and I believe there's 24 lighthouses. And or is it 12? Yeah, 12 or 24 on that. I forget. It's the harmonic convergent points. I think there's 24. Yeah. So each one of those harmonic convergence points, that are those points where 3 or more grids hit together, there are configurations within the Shield of Solomon in the planetary grids, going down the mantle and up into the crust, that actually activate and plug in to the Shield of Solomon as it progressively activates. So this is the core triangulation of the Shield of Solomon. Then this plugs into the arc hub gates, and then they can plug into the planetary gates. So it allows for the expansion of these areas that now are plugged into zones that can slide. So it allows for the creation of slide zones where that up and down between median Earth and here can happen on the atomic level. So what the Guardian's job is going to be for the next 222 years is going to be to progressively get this activated, which we're working on now, and then to hold that activation and to begin to learn how to work the slide gates and how to work with this. And because it's fascinating material, but it literally is. It's a very complex process. First, we had to understand for 10 years, I've been teaching us about all sorts of things about the grids to the point where it's exhausting. It's like, who's on first? I don't even know anymore as far as the grid work goes. It's so intensive. But they're trying to help us understand. This is very high-level stuff. If it weren't a crisis evac situation, they never would have taught us this information that they're giving in the last couple of years. But they could see it was progressively going that way. And somebody has to hold the host, or nobody's going to get out of here. So fortunately, you guys are here, because me and Az and Matt couldn't do it by ourselves either. We'd be fried by now. Right? So this connects in. Now, these are the natural rods and chambers, right? Remember, this is where, I don't have it on this one, but it's through this one that comes the transcendental passage. That's the Bardo chamber in the back. right? And there's all sorts of processes that we will eventually learn about this. We do have, this is the core of the shield. It plugs into the next one, which is, I think that's showing the lighthouses, right? Yeah, this is just showing you the lighthouse areas, right? These are the lighthouses, those harmonic convergence points. These two are actually considered, we have these two close together and these two are close together. They consider those one lighthouse for some reason, all right? And this is the grid space that the Shield of Solomon will cover. So that triangulation that I don't have on this map, and I'll show you them both together in the next map, but the triangulation that we saw before actually activates this whole shield set, where whatever quantum of the net Earth planetary shield is holding the ability to anchor Christ frequency or the Christ host, it will start with this. This is the Solomon shield, so this creates a safe zone or a potential slide zone area. Now, let's see, this again is the transcendental passage chamber going out the back, or if it would look, I don't have it on this one, but it would literally be that chamber sticking out the back if this was rolled up as a sphere, if this map was, taken like this and made a sphere. All right, so these are lighthouses. Next one, please. This is colorful. Oi. Let's see, I remember how to explain this one. I'm going to take my shoes off, though, actually. I'm getting numb feet for some reason. It's a weird feeling. Goes off. There you go. Alrighty. Let's see here. Okay. These are Ascension grids, the Shield of Solomon, right? And there is a configuration in here referred to as the Star of Solomon that they haven't gotten to yet. This little green, the lighter green triangulation was the one we activated in kits, and that didn't include yet the California grids going over into here and then down and expanding the size of the power-based triangulation. If you notice, this is where our net rods are, and also the median Earth. This is where they want to split them to, and this is where the caduceus rods are. So these are where the sinkholes would show up in all of that. It's probably best not to sit on a sinkhole. We're pretty close there, right? Wherever we're going. Let's see, where's Florida? There's so much on here, it's hard to see where Florida is. That's down here. All right, so the watchtower is there. Fortunately, well, yeah, it interfaces with the caduceus rod, and this is like Green Dragon control territory. They are handing these grids over to us. All of the Green Dragon grids are being handed over to us, or if they're going to be grids that can't hold the Christ, that are going to go Christ fall, they'll be handed over to the Christ fall Buddhara. But they're just saying, here you go. So there's progressive events where grid handovers are being done, because the Green Dragons are going to lose them. They're going to get them going on the red spin, shift them over, and pull us up into here and take the whole thing out through the kill code. And they don't even, the Red Dragons had one agenda. They were planning the longer, the slower Omega kill code, and so were the Greens, but where there's time for evacuating their own kind and those kind of things. The White Dragons, they have a kill-all agenda. They don't care. They want it done fast. They want the quantum of the planet, and they want access to the gates. They don't care, even if their own get off. And they made the deals with the Red Dragons. Well, they didn't make deals. They said, we're going to kill you now, or you're going to help us, right? The Red Dragons are the ones who petitioned them in the first place, because they were losing grid strength in relation to the Greens. So they got involved with the Whites, and the Whites took it right out from under them and basically said, you want to die now or later? Yeah, so they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Yeah, so we are in the middle of an amazing grid war, and it's crazy, because you go out there and you certainly don't hear it on CNN. People think we're wacky. What did somebody say as we were all coming back into the room? Somebody in a car was driving out, right? And they stopped, rolled down the window and said, "Are you aliens?" Right? No, not really. Well, kind of. Right. Well, you see 280 people out at midnight looking up at the sky. They probably thought we were waiting for spaceships to land. Right? In fact, we're doing the opposite. No, please don't land, because they won't be friendly if they do. Right? So over here, now this whole segment of the planet going from the core, but extending into these areas in the map, these are potential ascension grid areas. America's lucky. It's sitting in the middle of it. South America's sitting pretty good in there, too. I think that's South America. Yeah, where am I? It's so light, it's hard to see. Yeah, that's South America. When you go over here, if it weren't for the fact that we also have the hub cluster gates, and I always wondered why the arc hub cluster gates, there were so many of them like over in Europe and stuff, but not a lot of them over here. It was like they got all the good stuff then. Well, that's because we had all the good stuff here. And there's a system of activating these things progressively where they plug into the hub cluster gates, and then those gates plug into the natural planetary stargates that we lost control of years ago with this drama, during like somewhere between 2001 and 2004. And we'll be able to put at least at 2/3 quantum capacity the rest of all these gates back online with the host shield of Solomon. So even though these grids over here are primarily keyed to the Christfall host, so the green dragon areas, this will be the portions of the planetary grids, the major portions, that will go sovereign fall. These are the main ones that will be eligible for, if they can hold the frequency, doing the upshift into median Earth. But there will be a lot of places in between each where there's options for both. So it won't just be, gosh, everybody from Europe has to run over to America or South America, and anybody that wants to go sovereign fall has to get out of America and go over to Europe. It doesn't have to work that way, and in China as well. So when we get the arc hub cluster maps, I'll just show you the idea of where these guys are. So you see that they spread all the way over. So Ireland would be the link which brings the power base of the Shield of Solomon over into the European grids, and from there they can connect into all the arc hub gates and the span gates and all of those things. We don't have the listing of all of where all the span gates are, the spanner gates, which are the core flow Navajo chambers. We just know where span 7 is, I think, at the moment. But literally the entire gate system can get put on at about 2/3 quantum, where 1/3 of the quantum will ultimately be divided into going upward into the median Earth ascension. 1/3 of the net Earth quantum will go into sovereign fall, and 1/3 of it will end up going into caduceus, full caduceus fall, and into phantom fall under the white dragons. So it's going to be a 3-way split, basically, of the net Earth grids. When the end comes, the end isn't going to be for another 222 years on the host, and even after that, there may be something that once the evac is done here, it's not going to be that the planet's going to self-destruct then. That's what we're going to progressively assist the beloveds in anchoring the separation between these grids, where we can get progressive upswitch for the ones that are going up, and progressive protection for the green grids, so all of the green grids don't get ripped right down into phantom, and then only the parts that can't be held will go into the Wisa falls with the white dragons and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of, at some point there is going to have to be official friendly contact to assist in this, because this is such a big mission. We're really, even though we've done really, really well for the fact that we didn't remember none of this, and we're like mutated down here too, just like everybody else on the planet, right? I think we've all been doing really, really well, trying to keep up with understanding how this is working and not freaking out, when we're told things like your plates are going to crack and, oh, Lord, that kind of stuff. But as far as some of as we progress into the future with this, there's going to be progressively more sophisticated grid mechanics required, because the Omega code will progressively activate and speed up, which means it will progressively, there'll be a fight happening between our Solomon grids trying to hold the planet together and the other part pushing it apart, right, that kind of thing. So there's going to be, definitely there will be contact at some point. Right now the contact that's been trying to push for, it's been the white dragons trying to push for contact to come in and raid, to literally just come in and get rid of us and just take over and split the rods and get it all done. So we're going to read a little bit about how many pages? I forget. What was that? It was page 16 through 24 or something. Yeah. However many pages are in there. Quite 9 pages of reading the step-by-steps of the 2008 drama only. That's only the stuff that's happened in 2008 that brings us up to where we are, so we can understand what we're going to be able to do in this particular workshop and in Sarasota. So I think that explains most of it. Yeah. Did I miss anything significant? This is the front chamber, by the way. That would be the Kali chamber, the one that comes out the front, where that's the Bardo chamber transcendental passage that goes out the back and connects the planet into its next level, into its own bud levels or bud levels. Right, so that's just, yeah, I think that does it. Now, oh, yeah, next one, please. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, these are the old Amente maps, right? I just want to point out that you've got stargates, the natural planetary stargates, that we lost control of these in between 2000 and 2003 or 4. I think it was 3, actually. But these will, 2/3 of their quantum will be able to potentially come back online with the Shield of Solomon. So the Amente maps will still be important because they will show you in those big, things where you have the middle one that has no, it actually is over here, the Shield of Solomon. This map is oriented a little bit different than, like, as far as where America is compared to it. It's relatively scaled, but it's just a different panning perspective than the ones you were seeing before. So you'd have like Shield of Solomon over here, and you'd have the green shield that's going to O'Sovereignfall over there, but you'd have all these other places still located in both sides that are connected into the Solomon host shield. So any of those places would be viable as far as where to be for Ascension. Some would be more difficult than others. It is better when you have stronger cluster areas and don't have a lot of people that have been taken over by the other side and really just scowl at you every time you breathe and that kind of stuff, because you can find communities like that are very kind of like a bit gone already, where their bodies are still walking around, but what's in them is not highly pleasant anymore. So there are some places, the Stargate cities, and I'm not even going to try to read these are so tiny, but we can get they're still on the product list, aren't they, the Amente maps? Okay, so they're available through AP. Then these connect into the hub cluster gates, and I think that's the next one I have, isn't it? It's printed a bit dark, but I think we can see them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, please. Now, this isn't showing. There's quite a few that overlap in various places, but these are the Ark Hub Cluster Gates, which are the Ark of the Covenant gates, from which the Hub Cluster Gates run, right? These are quite huge. They cover very, very large areas that I'll give you an idea of in a minute. I mean, just like here's 2 of them, for example, right? Right, this is the one that anchors in Mesa, Arizona, which is part of the Shaylon 7, Span 7 collection of gates, all right? That goes all the way here. It goes way out of Arizona, right? This is the one that's up in Seattle. It goes way past Seattle. You got one over here on Manhattan Island, right? You have another one here in Bermuda. You have one at Adair, and this is the one. It's the Adair one. Adair is in Ireland. That is the one that is the other sentinel that allows for that power-based triangulation to pull over into Europe and into Ireland, and then to feed the European grids, the Solomon frequencies. And there's another one up here at Newgrange. I remember us going to Newgrange, and that was scary. I thought oh my God! I thought the little lady she was like a very militant little lady tour guide that took you into Newgrange. I mean, she would not let us. You don't touch stones. You don't sing. You don't, you don't meditate. You don't anything. You walk through and I talk. I'm like, can we just walk through silently? No. Right? So we were supposed to be doing grid work in the thing, right? She was like, okay. And she was really getting under my skin at this point. And I didn't realize they had backup security with, like, automatic weapons. It looked like, I swear. No, they had some kind of gun thing, though. It was, like, noticeable. And she called security and stuff because when I said to her, I kind of just a little bit lost my temper and said, you can control what we do with our bodies. You can control what we do with our mouths, but you can't control what we do with our minds. And I said it really nice, just very peaceful and quiet. She freaked. She went in a tizzy, like just going around in circles and calling security, right? And she looked like it short-circuited, like whatever, she had something in her field. She had really almost like, how a robot just goes, she wouldn't let us out, right, of New York. We were stuck in this one area. And it was good because, like, in the meanwhile, we're going, okay, and we put a crystal on the ground, we're getting the energy work done, right? Meanwhile, we're in there, and she's not letting us go out or in because we're waiting for security to come. Oh, God. Fortunately, the guy who came that was, like, a more armed security guy, he was very nice about it, and he calmed her down, and, like, we didn't do anything. It's like, oop. I learned to shut up, actually. I did after that one. I said, oh, my God. Thank God it wasn't in, like, Peru or somewhere where they get even more militant with guns, right? I would have been locked up in jail for speaking, right? So anyway, I'm very glad it's at Adair and not in Newgrange. It's lovely over in Ireland. We've done a lot of work with Island, which is something 11, which is at 11. I can't even remember. There's so many gates that we have to remember, but it's in the 11 sequences. Island is. It's not one of the direct hub gates, but it's connected into them, and so we'll be going over here into Adair and to this island that I can never remember the name of. Skellig Michael? Yeah, Skellig Michael, a little island off the coast of the island of Ireland, right? So the island within the island, right? And we're going to do something. They haven't told me a lot about it yet, other than the fact that we're going over there to fully activate the sentinel grids there. But there's also something to do with being off with the fairies, because we're going to play with the aqua fairy over there and do something with the elemental command kingdoms, like the fairy kingdoms, the aqua fairy, but also, I think, the fairy folk here that aren't just, they're the ones from Net Earth. I think we're going to be doing something with those guys. So they told us that a while back, but then we never ended up going, and it seemed like, the workshop, whatever they were giving me on it, just kind of like fell off the shelf and was gone, and they didn't give me anything else. They're bringing it back to that now, but at a much higher level, I have a feeling, as far as the Shield of Solomon goes. So these areas will all activate. And over here, it's kind of like you look and say, well, gee, China's still in trouble in all those areas over here. But there is still a couple of the regular planetary stargates that are over there. So once the hubs are activated and plugged in, was it 8 and 9? Yeah, 8. There's one in Xi'an, China, and one somewhere else up there in the Taklamakan Desert, wherever that is. Yeah. Yeah. Now, these were ones that were corrupted before, but we will get progressively get two-thirds of them back online, the planetary stargate systems, which means the Amente gate systems, which is really good because we lost control of them and had to shut them down or like block their access to the rest of the grids when they fell. So there's a lot of areas now that will be opening up into the Shield of Solomon host, and that's really good news for people who have to live all over the planet. If you happen to live in China or something, you look at this map and say, oh God, right? How do I get out? Right? You don't necessarily have to, because there are ways to pull from your main gate. Once you have your homing seed activated, actually, that will assist you to be able to tap where your home gate is, regardless of where it is. Especially if you could visit it once, though. That actually strengthens the whole relationship between you and that site. But you can just pull energy, through breathing from the area, and it will, if they ever pull the shield, you would actually get the frequency run through you, pop up, and it'd pop up with people in the shield wherever they ended up bringing it up through. So it would give you a host out from wherever you are, that kind of thing, once the homing seed is activated in the body. So people don't have to be frightened of running for slide zones. And what are slide zones? They are safe zones, and they are zones where full slide zones are where you got slide cities that can come up and down. Other ones are interfaces that will pull you through the gate set to where the closest slide city is, right, where you can go fully up and down. So it's a fascinating process, and I've had it amazing because I knew none of this stuff consciously when I walked in here, and because it wipes when you walk in, right? And Katie, the walkout, my walkout, didn't know any of this whatsoever. So all of this, we're all learning together. I think it's quite amazing how far we've all come to be even able to understand something at this level. So anyway, this is why it's good news at this point. Next one, please. Oh, I think there's an activation coming in because I'm getting the back thing of the Kundalini. This is showing a little bit closer of what an arc hub cluster gate looks like. This is the one that's in Mesa, so it's in like Mesa, Phoenix, Scottsdale area. Shaylon 7 grid set. And look at the size of that. That expands out all over the place. The most powerful areas of them are, would be the center hub here, and all of these little spots too, the points of the ruche is what they actually are. It's a ruche configuration. They would all be the power grids, but all these areas too would plug into these, and then they would plug into the next one. So you have the first one that's the like the core most powerful one. Then you have these 4 on the inside that are the next most powerful, and then you have the 8 on the outside that are most powerful. All of them are configured like that, all of the arc hub gates. And this is showing the link between Shalon 7 and the Mesa arc hub gate, all the way down here into Shala 13, which is the core gate at Corral in Peru. So that's just showing the link there. Next one, please. Almost done with this set. Before we go into the next set, we are going to do a break, Jerry, because I have to get down what the technique is at the end of the next set. Okay. Am I tripping on? Okay. This is just showing, all right, here's Pine Island, right, off Fort Myers and Cape Coral, Florida. This up here is where the Gruol is, right off Siesta Key, Florida, and that's where Sarasota is, all right? And that's where we're going for the next workshop. And it doesn't run as perfectly as it looks like here when you bring it in closer. It's actually a little bit off, but it's still in the parameter enough, like Pine Island is still in the parameter enough to catch it. But this goes all the way down and links into a place called Monkey Hill that is on St. Kitts, and that is the location of where the Adjugate 13, Adjugate Shala 13, Adoria Gate, they call it the Mother Gate because it runs the frequencies, the spirit body frequencies from the A10 vector. That is down here. We don't have the other one drawn over here yet, but this was just showing the link with those, right? So it's showing it more closely on a real map with names on it. All right, next one, please. It's just 8 miles off that line? Okay. He said, as I was saying, that the watchtower is just 8 miles off that line, and the island itself is only 17 miles long by 2 miles wide. So it's like, parameter-wise, that's really not too bad. But actually, what anchors in we have Sanibel Islands down here. Here's the watchtower island right here, and it's the center. Actually, no, it's here. This is the watchtower. This is Cape Coral over here. This is the watchtower. And this is on the mainland. Cape Coral, there's a bridge that takes you over to the island, thankfully, because if they said I had to go live on one of the captivas that are out here and you have to take a boat to get there, I wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't. I really, really, really wouldn't. Right? Fortunately, there is a bridge. They can drive over, and it's not a long one. So there's the watchtower there. And this is the watchtower shield. It's about 144 miles, in diameter. So it extends way out into the ocean, and it extends quite a bit over onto the mainland of Florida too. Next one, please. Oh yeah, Sarasota is not marked on this one. Gruol is here though, so you just go straight. It would be right over in here because it's straight across. This is where the coordinates where the Gruol is. It's actually in the ocean off the coast of Siesta Key. So you just take that in straight, and Siesta Key would be right in here someplace. We just don't have it marked on that map yet. Yeah. There you go. This is Pine Island down here. Right? And a place called Matlacha that is kind of like part of it. Right there. And there's where the bridge goes over. So it's yes, it's an island, but it's protected by these out here so it doesn't get hit first with the storms. And it's close enough to the mainland that if it does get hit, you can run right quickly. And it's really lovely. Yeah, it doesn't have fancy white sandy beaches, though. Just one little area up here in the tip has a bit of white sand beaches. Because the white sand beaches tend to be the ones that face directly into the Gulf. And because, these are the barrier islands, they're the ones that have the really quartz. It's actually quartz, white quartz sand, 99.9% white quartz or something. Yeah, that was what was at Siesta Key. As you will see when we go to Sarasota, it's the Siesta Key beach that's right off Sarasota that we use when we do the activations and stuff, the Gruol Beach, let's say. And they had their sand analyzed at some point, whoever the community is there, and it's one of their kind of tourist attractions, 99.9%, pure crushed quartz crystal, and they don't know why, right? Scientists trying to figure out how'd that get there. Yeah, it had to do with things that had to do with the Atlantean temples and when certain things exploded and things like that. We got into that in the early days. We were, talking about that, about some of the things that used to be there in the Atlantean periods and how that was one of the areas that were affected with the temples, the crystal temples exploding, the generator temples. And literally, it some of it is still remaining with the white sand. You do have the white sand, a little bit of it, like I said, on the northern tip of this. Most of this here, they have mangroves around them. It's very, very pretty, and it's all beautiful green, and lots of palms as well as pines, right? But out here, you've got the Captiva Islands. You have, what is it, about a 40 minutes, 30-minute boat ride? It's from here to here, about 30 minutes? Well, you know, average.
30 if you're slow, 30 if you're quick, 60 if you're slow.
Okay, 30 if you're quick, 60 minutes if you're slow in your boat. Right? They come out here to one, I think it might be this one down here. It's one of these in this string, and it might not be shown on the map. That's called Coya Costa, and it's a natural preserve where people aren't allowed to live on it anymore, build on it. So it's like completely natural and pristine, like you'd find, you know, like you would have found it, you know, back in the days when the Indians lived there and stuff. It is also a historical site. The island itself is, because it's they have Calusa Indian ruins there that are very protected, and a big research center and that kind of stuff. So it's quite a protected area as well. And they have a lot of protection too, as far as, you know, their flora and fauna and that kind of thing, that they're very protective of it. There's a whole bunch of, like, what are they, bald eagles? 20 pairs of bald eagles live there, you know, protected, and other things too, of course. But it's like a little paradise. It really is. We didn't even know it was there. We lived right up here. Right. Now, Siesta Key is right there, and this whole area is, like, considered Sarasota. So, like, we were, you know, here's Sarasota, Bradenton Airport, and that kind of stuff. So, Siesta Key, our house was someplace in here. Siesta Key was here. We were only about, I think, 15-minute, well, no, about a half-hour walk from the beach, right? Yeah. So, but it was a quick drive, but you could never find a parking spot ever, ever, ever. I mean, the parking lot would be so full on the beach, you know, because it's a public beach, that you'd have to drive around the blocks repeatedly, especially when you brought a workshop in. Oh, my God. And people get mad at you if you, like, stood in a parking spot and waited for the next car. They, like, you know, threaten to run you over, get out, you know, first come, first serve kind of thing. So hopefully we've got permits and everything, and they know the buses are coming in. So, you know, it's all done official through Darlene and traveling and travel agent stuff. So we're not going to be, you know, trying to fight it out in the parking lot for having the right to go. But we're going to go up here and do the work. So that's the relationship. You've got Sarasota up here in Siesta Key, and then down here you have, you know, the Fort Myers area. You have Pine Island off of it there. And then down here a little bit you have some place called Naples. Naples is down here a little bit, and the Florida Keys are down further and that kind of thing. You know, it's nice because it's a little bit warmer than it would be up here, just because it's a little bit further south. But it's also nice that it's protected here and it's not stuck out on the Keys. I'd be terrified to live in the Keys. It must be gorgeous there, but with the hurricanes and stuff, it's a bit, I would think it's a bit intense. But some people like that. So I figure it's a nice place between two worlds, where it's close enough to the mainland, it's protected, but it's still an island and it's pretty. So anyway, that's where the the watchtower is. And literally, they've anchored it into the property that they had us purchase. So it's almost like a beacon in there, and that shield is activating. That shield will continue to expand to a certain degree. I don't know how far out it will eventually expand with the progressive activation of the Shield of Solomon. So this is a huge grid setup. This is a huge guardian commission. I really wish they'd send the big guys in, the good big guys, right? You know, and let us all take a break and slide on up and have a little like R&R. So I'm really hoping it starts soon. Next one, please. That's just showing again the sites of the lighthouses that go with the watchtower and the sentinels. Next one, please. I'm just going to touch on these really quickly. Yeah. We'll talk about later what one of the interesting things that occurred in 2008 that we're about to kind of like consummate in the United States on January 21st, I believe, with the swearing in, yes, of our new president. The areas that, and this is just looking at state by state, and we'll look at it, taking it down a little bit, like then see where the counties did. When you have areas in anywhere, we only had the one for the states, but you could do this in whatever country, there will be certain parties that are, and it's not always the same party aligned with one group. Sometimes they actually switch. In America, it's been pretty consistent all along since the Civil War period, where usually what became first of all, the rebels, the rebel movement from down south was associated with the Red Dragon crews, okay, or in the drag races and that kind of stuff. Didn't mean everybody that was, a rebel was one, but the general agenda was associated, that the rebels were following, was being moved by the drag groups at the time, and they were, eventually backed by the Red Dragon crews, because the dragons didn't come in for a while, but they had set up and they moved these political things. The Green Dragons were the ones running the basically a Yankee platform. That kind of divided up, and these are just, they're generalizations, but they're accurate generalizations. There's still lots of differences in between. But then the Democratic philosophy and the Republican philosophy, they were actually part of that. The main Republican philosophy was associated with the rebel philosophy, which was associated with the Red Dragons ultimately, and the Democratic philosophy was associated with the Yankee philosophy, the original core of the Yankee philosophy, which was associated with the Green Dragons. There wasn't a lot of blue showing as far as blue dragons or Christians, right? This has been a Templar power struggle the whole time, where you have concentrations of people that have a certain strong ideology, for example. And like most of the community is oriented to this or is oriented to that. Say if there's more Democrats in an area or more Republicans in an area, or Muslims in one area of the planet and Christians in one area of the planet. This tells you something, because those concentrations of people, no person's here alone. Everybody has a soul group connection that you come in with, and it's not. And sometimes you got things that are messing with you from soul group collectives that aren't your own. So we all have something that moves us from somewhere when we're awake, when we're not awake yet, and that kind of thing, where we start getting more control over moving ourselves. You can look at maps like these to get a general idea of where you might feel more at home if you're of one philosophy compared to another. Where, sorry, when you look at them big, it's a little harder to tell, because all of these break down into much smaller areas. Can we see the next one, please, really quick? Now, this takes you into the counties, right? So you've got, now, the red are the Republican voting, or primary Republican county areas, and the blues are the primary Democrat areas. And I think these you can like look these up. I think they still probably have them somewhere on the internet, wherever we found those, because Ash found those. New York Times had them. All right, so these are New York Times maps of the recent election. They also had them back going through to show the differences, like from 2004 and that kind of stuff, which is kind of interesting. But it shows you an idea. It's kind of scary when you see how red it is. When I first saw it, I kind of went, uh-oh. Right? I find it remarkable with how red that is. The fact that Mr. Obama, the Democratic candidate, is our next president. Yes, there was a bit of help there.